A viral video has caught everyone's attention, and it shows a man punching a woman in the face after an argument. According to Fox 32, a local news station in Chicago, Carlisha Hood is facing murder charges along with her 14-year-old son after she allegedly told him to shoot the man who hit her. Hood and her son were arrested in connection to the murder of 32-year-old Jeremy Brown, who was pronounced dead at the scene after suffering 2 gunshot wounds to the back. Hood and her son were charged with 1 count of first-degree murder. Hood was also charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. So right off the bat, the first thing people want to know is, are they wrong? Capone, I see you over here. What you think, man? You saw this situation. How you feeling about it?
I think it was self-defense. He punched that woman repeatedly like she was not even human. And any child, I don't care, 13, 14, 30, would have shot him if they had the opportunity. Yeah. It could have been avoided. He could have walked away.
Yeah.
He wanted to hit that woman. He kept telling her, order your food or I'm going to punch you or I'm going to beat on you, whatever he said. I don't know the words exactly. But to me, him getting shot was self-defense.
And that's a question of legality, but I'm asking right and wrong.
Can I say something real quick? Mm-hmm.
Sure.
The biggest problem here is that was 2 Black people that killed each other over no reason. And this is the cycle and the program that has to stop. So when you go back to the kids' jail and what they teach these kids and drug them up and put them back into, they become trained soldiers.
You talking about the Audi homes. That's what it's called in Chicago, the juvenile prison. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was called the juvenile prison when I went down there. I was down there yesterday.
That's what we call it.
I mean, I was down there the day before yesterday, and it was, but this is the biggest thing that's the problem is, number one, that dude that punched that girl in the face, he's never right. You're not supposed to hit a woman. But that's part of that program where you internalize what the repressor's doing, and you take it out on the people you love, you overreact. That kid had a gun because in Chicago, whether you're a good person or not, you want to be able to defend yourself. Now, somebody puts their hands on your mother, that's what's going to happen. Is that right in the law? That's a setup. Right. Make them aggravate each other enough to where they hurt each other. Now, look what just happened. I'm quite sure that dude that got killed has a kid. Now, that kid has no father because the mother got to do extra work. The kid's going to go to jail. And hopefully that kid's not old enough to have a kid, but more than likely he doesn't have a father or has a father that was incarcerated or got killed. And now the mother going to go to jail. And if the mother got any other kids, now them kids are going to get raised by the street. They just disenfranchise a whole family. 3 different generations will get affected by that. And you know what else is happening? It's going to be news and they're going to laugh at us. Because now the 2 people that are going to jail, and if they get convicted, they're going to be working for slave wages. And instead of calling calling the slave master, they'll say warden and CO. And that's the program. So we have to get our mentality right and deal with our unrecognized trauma so we don't overreact. We all need therapy. So it's hard for me to judge a child no matter what, because he's a child. That's why when I go into these places and I see these 15-year-olds and 16-year-olds with 40 years with bodies, I'm not mad at the kid. I'm mad at what produced that kid.
And that's why I appreciate what you said about talking to schools earlier and being in 100%. Touch with principals. But that's something, Pierre, too, we've talked about this earlier on a previous segment about schools and kids being able to be kids. So one of the big parts about this story is that the child was 14 years old. Tell us anything you want to say about this situation and the kid being involved.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Dame said everything I wanted to say. Jesus Christ. I mean, he hit it on the head from beginning to end. It really is. It's a systemic situation, man. We can lay blame here and there, but it's rooted before that gunshot. I mean, before that punch, it's rooted. Something started before that. The way we see each other as not human sometimes, Black on Black scenarios, And again, like David said, at the end of the day, people are laughing at, the folks that run this, the puppet masters, laughing at us while we're doing this shit. Who's to blame? Who's to run? Unfortunately, somebody's dead right now. But the point goes before that. How do we stop it before that man punches that woman in the face because he's upset with her? That's how we got to kind of figure that out. Because once it happens, like Dame said, it starts to trickle down. And you start having childless, children. Fatherless children.
And then what happens to a kid with no parents that gets raised by the street? Somebody with some other trauma abuses that kid.
Of course, there you go.
Yeah. Another kid, it's a cycle.
Yep. It is a cycle.
Yep. It's so many tough kids out there that have been violated because they've been left alone.
You know what, Dame? I had a question. I mean, it's kind of with this. I've always wondered this, and this is something you'll know because you're in the music industry. You were in the music industry.
You know, in the music industry. I just told you I just okay. 7 labels.
All right.
Give me 7 labels.
Okay.
Don't get caught up in that program, bro.
Okay.
They don't empower me.
All right, let me ask you a question. So I see these videos, these young drill rappers, they're in the videos talking about killing somebody, shooting somebody on YouTube, shooting, killing, they got the guns in the video, all that. And the videos still play and play and play. But if I said I would slap the shit out of somebody in the LGBTQ, they would take my video down, they would block me. Why is that? You know
why it is?
And no problem.
Because that's Leor Cohen pushing that algorithm. You know, I told you when Cam and Mace was beefing and they was rapping, YouTube paid Cam money to respond. Oh, wow. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So something as obvious as that is just as obvious as that. Right. You know the reason. That's why you think they don't want Chinese running TikTok, because they're pushing us different shit in our algorithm. Pause. So people just have to understand that the world is based on behavior patterns and studies. And that and that data is the reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter. And data is where people make the most money in these streaming when they're aggregating behavior.
Right.
So yes, they manipulate knowing what we consider clickbait. And it's unfortunately, why do you think when I put a movie in the theater, it's not in the news? But if somebody accuses me of some kind of sexual assault, it's in everywhere. And then once I win and kick ass, go through a whole trial,
they don't say nothing.
The fucking word. I already know why.
Let me jump in though real quick, because we've been describing the system, right? And there are words that actually apply to this thing. The people, Dame, you don't know this, right? I'm a Howard University professor. But there are words that describe these things: white supremacy, patriarchy, homophobia, right? There is a system that does reinforce some of these problems in ways that keep us from being able to have this conversation clearly, right? So yes, Pierre, if you say something homophobic, yeah, somebody's going to come up there because there is a particular power structure involved that is tied directly into white supremacy. No question. Doesn't mean necessarily, though, that Black queer people don't exist and aren't being harmed. You didn't say that, and I understand, but I'm just making that point. But separately, as we have this conversation about why people are doing what they're doing, the underlying theme that we're not actually touching on is capitalism and exploitation, right? So we spent the first hour of this conversation talking about
We're not putting a title on it. We're not putting a title on that.
It's important, and that's what I'm saying. It's important to name these things so that we can actually address the problem. So as much as we can...
I tend to give them different names so that it relates more. So I mean, like culture vulture. You know what I'm saying? You know, you have to be... I know what you're saying.
But you said slavery too. Right. And slavery and capitalism go hand in hand. So this is one 100%. Of the problems is that
listen, if you want to get to that, anything that revolves around money, which is man-made, is meant to control us. So yes, if you worship money, you will be a slave to it, just like they want you to be slave to God. When money becomes your God, then you will be a slave to it. And that's the devil, to be honest. Money is the devil and love is the God. And love is the currency that I'm the capitalist for. But here's the issue though. And here's where things get tough. So one thing we talked about earlier is being free, right? And I come from the Toni Morrison school, right? When you're free, your job is to free somebody else. When you have power, your job is to give somebody else power. And I hear you talking about that. But when we have this situation where a woman is being beat on in the food spot, her son comes in and shoots somebody, when we have the conversation about solutions, we can't just leave it at the system is fucked up. We have to also say, hey, we need to have these conversations about restorative justice, right? So when we're talking about Chicago specifically, Chicago has significant programmings to fight against gang culture, right? Everybody's talking about put the guns down. And so one of the things that this story does, but the government
it brings that up without necessarily talking about the solutions that people are doing. Say it again, I didn't hear you.
The government is the one that was dropping bags of guns off in the first place.
Oh, 100%.
In Chicago, 80% of the murders don't get solved.
Facts. Yeah,
You know?
and putting people in jail don't necessarily right wrongs.
Well, that's,
and that's
the
thing I
business.
want
They
to
get
make
$1
sure we
million
have.
a head. They get $88,000 a month and don't give
100%. Yeah, and private prisons are a big part of the problem too.
The reason why we weren't going into that part of it, because I just don't want to get into judging anybody.
No, I'm talking about solutions.
Oh,
when we're talking about these issues, right? One of the ways
solution is a chip. Well, if you're
But that's what I'm
asking
saying.
that question,
No, what I'm saying is one of the ways that this situation gets blown out of proportion is that it's put out on networks that we don't own, unlike Comedy Hype News, right? And they use it as a vehicle to be able to talk about Black people being dysfunctional, Black people being violent,
it's
Black
going to
people
be
being
all
irrational.
over white people's feeds.
But what we can do is have the conversation about what the solutions are. And as long as we're doing that and having that conversation in a real and transparent way about creating jobs, the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, creating a youth jobs program that everybody knows, trying to get the schools better so that people's literacy is higher. These are real problems that lead to real solutions.
If the question is about the solution, that's what I think that I've been talking about. But the solution with the kids jail is, number one, to get them out of there, right? So they got to get out of there. We have to bring a lot of awareness to it. And what we did was, to me, the mayor of Gary, he just got elected. His name is Senator Eddie Milton, right? Gary is a gold mine. There's nothing but land out there, and there's a lot of things you could do. What we need is a transitional rehab facility for reentry. So we need to, before people get out the jails, get them healthy, get them therapy, and then also get them a job skill. Also, 70% of the people that come out of a jail, if they don't have a house to go to, they go back to a jail.
Yeah,
so we need a place for these people. We need these places for these people to live while they're educated. When you go to jail, you're not allowed to make $1. You work for slave wages and you come out uneducated. So it's a guaranteed 100% that if you don't have a place to live, you will not get hired, that you are going back, and that's a program.
So let's add it to the track Chiron then with Stephanie.
The solution,
Dame Dash is the abolitionist.
So the solution, I just gotta know what abolitionist means, but solution is that's what I mean. So solutions are, number one, learning how to lobby, getting with your local senator, and understanding how to get a vote. How to get a law and get a law passed. And that's the curriculum that you get from me as well. So I'm also part of something called the commission, which is Congressman Andre Carson, Senator Eddie Milton, Dr. Chris for medicine. We have Dennis McKeezy, who's the head of the OSG for education, which is 250 principals around the world. And we also have Tajay, who gives us therapy and the voice that we want, because Black people don't get therapy. So the study of therapy comes from white people. So when we finally get it, we're getting the wrong medicine for the wrong trauma.
I'm not saying that's wrong.
Then we have City Councilman Do-It-All Dupree, the first city election official that went platinum in hip hop, crushing them down in Newark. So
not saying that's wrong.
Now, this is the solution. The solution is all Black mayors that get together and take notes.
That's wrong.
And to me, to focus on the problems and figure out.
We've done this research, Dan. I'm a political scientist. We've done the research. Having descriptive representation doesn't actually solve the problems for Black people and Black communities.
I wasn't finished though.
So you were going on for a while. I'm trying to.
I know, but what I'm saying is I'm giving you the solution. And this is, you brought up something and you're very lengthy when you ask a question. So you're going to get a lengthy answer. So what I'm saying is, hold on. What I'm saying is, I just don't want people to think there's no plan. And it hasn't been done where we understand government contracts, where they spend the money, and to give them what they need and what the real problems are. We don't know what they are.
The master's tools won't dismantle the master's house, Dan. It's just that simple, right? Audre Lorde said it over 40 years ago.
I didn't say build a jail. I said build a transitional rehab facility and get housing.
And I'm with that.
No one's done that yet.
I'm with that. They do have transitional rehab facilities in Chicago.
Not made by us.